Hi guys, happy Sunday with Satan. Alright, so we're just gonna jump right back into the Cornish myth and legends with, what was it, the Druids and the Shamans, I think it was. It was really interesting. It was really interesting stuff. So, yeah, I don't really have much of an update on witches in love today. I mean, I could, but my cheeks hurt from smiling. So anyways, so, okay, now sometime after Britain separated from the continent in about 18 or 8000 BCE, the foraging people, almost called the hunter-gatherers, or also called the hunter-gatherers. This is why I like this, because they really go into the archaeological aspect and side of witchcraft. And it's really interesting. Besom something and Stang, that book right there, that's one amazing book. Alright, so where'd I go? Yeah, also called the hunter-gatherers, from the Mesolithic, the Middle Stone Age era, began to settle in more permanent camps and dwellings from the settling. My book keeps wanting to fly out of my hands, which probably happened over several centuries, if not millennia. So came the first permanent houses and hut circles, which marked the emergence of the Neolithic era, circa 3500 BCE. Wow, I like BC. This all needs to be BC, way before. I like that though. I like that. The hut, the circle, or hut circles. I love it. I want one. Now, the people then began to build their first megalithic structures. The dolmens, or the cromlechs, remain, of which can still be found in Ireland. So that's interesting. Wales and in Cornwall. Now, in Cornwall, good examples can be found in West Pinwich at Chun, Mulfara, Lanyon, now it's rebuilt, and Zenner, and on the edge of Bodmin Moor at Treverthy. I think I said that right. I hope. So these dolmens, sometimes called quaits in Cornwall, instead of a box-like structure enclosed in a mound of earth, it was actually a capstone at the top, probably deliberately exposed. It kind of sounds like a time capsule to me, in a way. So this flat capstone may have been used for the purpose of excarnation, the practice known from elsewhere, whereby dead bodies are left on a high platform for the carrion birds and animals to pick off the flesh. Okay, so now we have an Easter egg. When all of Sabrina and her little gang, they go into hell, and they find, what's her name? His name, Theo? The dead bodies are being, picked apart by birds. There you go. The bones may have been placed into the dolmens inside the mound. So although few bones have been actually found in Cornwall because of the acidic soils, we know that from elsewhere that these bones were disarticulated, and that is, bits of bones from different individuals would be placed together, and then later some bones would be removed and replaced by others. So that's pretty different. That's really different. So the archaeological story behind it it's beautiful. It really is. And now the implication of this is that the burials were thought of as a kind of a communal, and the buried people all as interrelated members of the same family group. So the archaeologist Paul Boonington had described it as the burial of people being absorbed into the ancestral body, which that makes perfect sense. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's why we work with the land, we work with the dirt, literally the dirt, because it contains everything that we need to know. So that's really interesting though. And coming from an archaeological point of view, that's what I like. That's what I want. That's what we need. So, blah blah blah. So what was the purpose then of the communal burials? So we may imagine that at specific times, the shamans from the tribe would ascend the hills to enter the mounds of these dolmens. You guys know what a dolmen is, right? Like a pole, like a stick. You can get them at the craft store. and they attain some altered state of consciousness by means perhaps of fasting, rhythmic repetition, or the ingestion of narcotic substances. Most indigenous peoples used local psychotropic substances to attain states of altered consciousness, such as the Mexican peyote or the South American ayahuasca plants. I don't know about the ayahuasca thing. I don't know if I really want to vomit and, like, all that good stuff before I trip. I don't think so. That's just no. But now in Cornwall, though, many of the dolmens lie on a high moorland. So even to this day, magic mushrooms can be found growing naturally in this vicinity. Cornwall, here I come. Alright, now, if these grew here 500 or 5,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, and perhaps other plants that have now disappeared, then the shamans would readily use these substances to help them on their spirit journeys, to meet the spirits of their ancestors buried within the dolmens. So we know from other peoples that these spirit journeys are often undertaken to learn the secrets of healing and understanding the patterns and the meaning of the universe. So the shamans of Neolithic Cornwall may have been doing something very similar. So we can actually trace it back to Neolithic times, and I love that. I love the archaeological work that they're doing. So we have a shiitake drawing of mushroom spirits collected by W. Borogos, 1905. Pretty interesting looking. I mean, that's something that I would probably draw on a trip. I would. So, alright, now this practice probably went on for many centuries, but when we reached the early Bronze Age, different kinds of structures are being built, particularly barrows. So, these barrows may have been used in a similar way to the dolmens, though it is interesting to note that the excavated barrows in Cornwall, only 55% contained burial remains, and 41% contained no remains at all. So, of the ones that contained remains, only 4% were deposited there from an earlier structure. Interesting. So it does appear that the fashion of adding bones into the chambers that was practiced in the Neolithic period had changed by the Bronze Age, and of course the barrows may have continued to be places for the shamans of the tribe to go on spirit journeys. So over half of the barrow did have deposits of bones, and even in those that did not, the function of the barrow may have been similar. They may have been built as a monument to the ancestors, manifesting the presence of the dead in the land of the living, without the necessity of placing actual bones inside. Which I like that concept. I really like that concept because we have that structural, mound. So we're gathering and we're collecting that energy, and naturally that energy can actually start to become cyclical, and it'll just keep being added to, and then boom, we have a power structure. So it's pretty interesting. I love that. So now if we move forward from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age, particularly the Romano-Celtic period of about 500 BCE through 500 CE, we can see a definite change in the structures where people lived. In Cornwall, people were living in country yard and house settlements and constructing large earthworks in the form of so-called hill forts, cliff castles, and rounds. That's funny because when I go back to my childhood, that's all me and my best friend ever did was create hill forts, and it's very interesting. We were really connected to our surroundings and the genealogy of the land. It's very interesting, and it's sad that we do lose that when we grow up, and I don't like it. Now, they were also making fine bronze, copper, and gold ornaments, so it used to be thought that this was all the result of the movement into Cornwall by the Celtic peoples from the continent, bringing with them the culture known generally as Letene and Hallstatt, named after the places in Switzerland and Austria. So, where the distinctive Celtic styles were first found, however, it has been shown recently by the genetic research of the Celtic people of Cornwall, were in fact descendants of their Neolithic and Bronze Age forebearers, and therefore inhabited the same land, and were surrounded by these sacred monuments left by their ancestors. That is why I love Cornwall. This is why I love Cornwall. It's incredible. Okay, I will stop lusting over Cornwall. So they may have adopted some of the cultural styles of their continental cousins, which is, it's obvious. You're going to do that. But there was no great invasion of peoples into Cornwall. So I think that's why everything has stayed pretty much very well structured, especially traditional witchcraft. And thanks to Gemma Gary, that tradition of witchcraft has really survived, and it's gone. It's not gone. I was like, it's gone. No, wait, no, it's not gone. So, now our knowledge of these so-called Celtic peoples who lived in Britain prior to the Roman invasion in 43 CE comes mainly from the Roman writers, in particular, Tacitus. I hope I said that right. Tacitus? So he tells of a priestly cast of druids who ministered to him spiritual needs of the Celtic tribes, and according to him, these druids were finally attacked and defeated on the Isle of probably Man, I want to say. Oh no, of Anglesey, and by Suetonius Paulinus, whatever, I can't say that word, sorry, I butchered it. Sorry, Cornwall, in about 60 CE. So, and their sacred groves destroyed. Oh, that's terrible. So this this account implies that the Druids had by then abandoned the megalithic monuments of their predecessors, whatever, and instead worshipped in woodland grooves. So there may be some truth in all of this, but is it necessarily the whole story? Probably not. It never is. The Celtic tribe occupying Cornwall at this time was the Cornovi, but we have little evidence of specific sacred groves, especially for a clue left by the Celtic name Neved or Neves, which means literally a sacred grove. So there are a number of Cornish places, Cornish place names derived from this word, such as the Carnivas near St. Marin, Lanivet near Bottom, and I don't even know this one, Tronovisic near St. Blasey, and I'm not even going to pronounce this one. I'm going to try. No clue. So yeah, no, never mind. Now, however, what we do have in Cornwall, and only in Cornwall from this period, are the fogus. I love it. I love the fogus. So fogus were constructed always in association with the courtyard house settlements, and we know from excavations at Carnunny, that the fogu it was actually there before the courtyard house settlement that grew up around it, not courthouse. So if this were the case at other settlements as well, it implies that these, structures were built right at the beginning of the Romano-Celtic period, so that's prior to 500 BCE, and were important enough to be maintained and used for about 1,000 years. So the period of the Celts and their priestly caste, the Druids. So the function of fogus have been much disputed in the past, and I see it all the time online. People, arguing about fogus. So where'd I go? But the general consensus nowadays by nearby everyone, including archaeologists, which I love, is that they were used for ritual and ceremonial purposes, and that's very, very true, and they still are. So both ends of the fogu were sealed. Easter egg, and entry was affected. Wow, affected by the narrow creep passage. So this meant that whoever entered the underground chamber had to do so on their belly or hands and knees. So entering the dark cavern must have been a powerful experience. I mean, that would be. This takes me back again. Easter egg, Sabrina going to limbo. There we go. A very, very good example of a fogu. So, this begins to sound like entering of the dolmens by the Neolithic shamans. So, could we have here in Cornwall a continuity or a continuity of purpose by the religious leaders of the community from Neolithic to the Romano-Celtic period? In the Neolithic, the shamans, they entered the earth mounds of the dolmens to commune with the spirits of the dead and the ancestors. Now, in Bronze Age, their successors went to the Barrows for the same purpose, and finally, in the Iron Age, in the Celtic period of the Druids, spiritual successors of the shamans went to the fogus for same purpose. So it's the same purpose, the exact same purpose. And this is really how spiritual it is when you're outside. So if you can find yourself somewhere, like even a mound. Here in my city, we have a giant, a huge mound. It's big, and I don't think you can actually go in it, but we do have this mound, and it's incredible. And it was built, but then behind it we have burial. So we have like all this, we have like some bits and pieces of, headstones, tombstones, whatever, scattered about, so if you go walking, and, I always do take like 3 pennies and some water, and I give them, an offering, because I'm walking on them, and I'm like, I don't want to make you guys mad, I don't want to piss anybody off, so here's my respects. Alright, so now, we can perhaps imagine the Druids, spiritual mediators, preparing themselves by achieving an altered state of consciousness, and then entering the fogu by the creep passage into the darkness to go on a spirit journey to meet the spirits of the dead ancestors. And that would actually be their ancestors and the ancestral dead. So every ancestor that is, connected to us, the children of Cain, quote unquote. So they would then return to the tribe with that knowledge, perhaps released from the darkness at the moment of the summer solstice, sunrise, or sunset. All fugos are oriented in those directions. So, or I'm going to have to actually look at that one and see what direction it's actually, focused at. But it's just a mound. It's not a fogu. So, of course, this can, only be speculation. Of course, yeah. But, if it is true, then the Druids were the natural successors of the shamans. Wow. And inherited their wisdom and practiced it in new but similar settings. So this would be an amazing continuity of spiritual tradition stretching over thousands of years from prehistoric shamans to the Celtic Druid. That is incredible. That is seriously incredible. So, this is just amazing. Really getting into the Cornwall. Amazing. This book may be tiny, but again, I don't know who you are, Cheryl Straffen, but you're amazing, and I do recommend this book for you guys, really, if you want to get, into the liminal spaces and really get in and, dive deeper into a little bit of Cornwall and traditional witchcraft. So we can all see where it started, and, how it kind of gets torn apart, and then how it gets put back together, and then how it continues, with us. So, but alright, guys. I love this rain. I do. It's not too bright. It's just perfect. So, but alright, guys. If you want, you guys can go to mysticamber.com, enter my name, RYANE, all cap locks, and you guys get 10% off. So, yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. So, yeah, my cheeks hurt from smiling, so I'm just going to stop this video right now. I love you guys with all my heart. I hope you guys have a great Sunday with Satan, obviously. And please stay healthy. Stay healthy. I want to talk to you guys so much about certain issues, and I can't because I don't want the unnecessary crap. You guys get it. You guys know. So if you guys want, you guys can look on my Instagram, and then you guys can look on my public page and see what's going on and why I think what I want to say and I can't. So anyways, all my love, all the way from Venus all the way back down. I'm so tired, but I love you all very much, and thank you guys for your amazing comments. I have read them, and I actually went through and I commented back. Thank you guys. Workings, Lupe and Gustavo, they are coming, so don't worry. So I love you all, and everybody, yeah, have a great Sunday with Satan.